Hey, what's up guys and gals, my name is Rick9G. Thank you so much for joining me today. We're going to be looking at I Love Lucy. More specifically, some I Love Lucy bloopers that I think you're going to absolutely love. Tell me down in the comments below if you spotted them. Also, don't forget to visit my Patreon page because it's a great way to find exclusive content not seen on YouTube. So let's get started. Our first blooper comes from Season 1, Episode 12, The Adagio. Now, in this one, Lucy hears that Ricky needs a dancer for the Parisian apache dance number at the club, and thinks that she can fit the bill. But her Parisian dance teacher has more than dancing in mind. He kind of romances Lucy. And at the end of the episode, we see Ricky and Lucy in their bed. Now, if you notice, you have to look really closely. I'll highlight it for you. Look at Ricky's bed on the lower right-hand side. You'll see the outline of a head, and it's an individual, probably like a director or a cameraman who's illuminated by a backlight, and we see the shadow on Ricky's bed. Kind of cool when you spot it. Moving on to blooper number 2, Season 1, Episode 35, Ricky asks for a raise. Now, this is a great one in which we see Gale Gordon star as Mr. Littlefield. He plays Ricky's boss. Now, in this one, determined to make things right, Lucy, with the Mertz's help, and they decide to book every table at the Tropicana to make sure that Ricky appears popular. This is because Gale Gordon's character decides to pretty much let Ricky go after he asks for a raise. However, the girls and Fred decide that they have to go to the club and dress up in many different outfits to pretend like they are unhappy customers, finding out that when Ricky's not there, that they have to leave. Now, in one of the scenes, this is usually not shown in syndication, so this is the full unedited version. You will see the gang go outside to kind of a back alley type set, but if you look at the lower left-hand side, you will notice these look very much so like stage light wires. These are the wires that are used for the lights to carry the electricity there, and you can just see them on the floor. It was a mistake to have them there, but if you look closely, you can spot them. Now, this is an interesting one. It has to do with the Mertzes and their telephone number. In the 51st episode of Season 2, Lucy goes to the hospital. You will notice Ricky, while he's at the hospital, because Lucy is about to give birth, Ricky calls Fred Mertz, and he says to the operator the number is circle 12099.
Circle 12099, please.
However, if you jump to later on the episode, The Matchmaker, Eddie Grant, who is Fred's old pal, decides to call Fred Mertz. However, when he calls him this time, he says circle 72099. So what happened there?
Give me circle 72099, please.
Moving on to Season 4, Episode 112, we see the Ricardos and Mertzes head to Tennessee. The episode is called Tennessee Bound. Now, they're on their way going to Hollywood. However, of course, you probably know this story where they get caught by the sheriff because they are speeding. So they're taken to the station that is where the jail is, and Lucy is put behind bars for being sassy toward the sheriff. And they decide, along with Cousin Ernie, to saw through them bars to let her out of jail. However, look very closely when you watch the episode next time. You'll notice that pretty much the bars are already cut, and when they're making these motions, they're actually hitting and cutting into the metal, but this is right next to the points where they are cut. Now, I'm not exactly sure how they kept the bars together, but I can tell you that it was a very weak material. I don't know, I imagine something like Play-Doh or something like that. It's kind of stiff and rigid enough, but pretty much you can go with one swipe of the saw and go right through it. You can see even Lucy jiggling and wiggling it, and look at the seams. They're not even from the beginning of the scene, which shows that, hey, they were pre-cut. Now let's continue with this Tennessee Bound episode because, of course, there are a few more bloopers in it. If you notice the sheriff, he decides, along with the Ricardos, Mertzes, and a few others, to do a square dance in order to celebrate his daughters, his twins, going to Hollywood with the Ricardos. However, the Ricardos, Cousin Ernie, and the Mertzes have a plan. They decide to square dance, but then to tie up everyone else. You can see Ricky going for the ropes. Now, what's interesting is that you can also see the sheriff notices it. He pretty much notices what Ricky is doing, which, of course, this is a fairly big blooper. He's not supposed to see that. And then it's pretty obvious when they're tying him up what's happening, and no one reacts. So I don't know, the timing was a little bit off. I love this episode, let me tell you, so I'm not bashing it in one way, but it is something that if you know what's going to happen and you really watch for it, you can see that something's wrong. And finally, take a good look at the members of the band that show up. Now, let me clarify what's happening here. The Mertzes and the Ricardos are heading from New York to Hollywood. It's only the four of them going. There was no say that Ricky's band was actually going with them. And even if they were, they would be flying because they did not go with them in their Pontiac. So the fact that they were caught speeding, brought to the station, and then you see Ricky's exact two band members playing for the square dance scene that you see in the Tropicana in New York, you know that something is wrong. Of course, they were brought in to play for the scene, but this is one of the biggest bloopers and, to be honest, my favorite of this video. Episode 139 of I Love Lucy from Season 5 is called Staten Island Ferry. And you guys and gals might know this one. It's where the Ricardos and Mertzes are going to go to Europe. So Fred figures out that he is pretty much seasick, so they're in trouble. So he and Lucy go on the Staten Island Ferry to kind of see if he can get over his motion sickness, and in fact Lucy's the one who gets even more sick than Fred was. So he takes care of her, and they remember that they have to go back to the passport office to sign all the documents. So they go back there, and we see Lucy's pretty much under heavy medication from the motion sickness. So Ricky comes in and he decides to wake her up. Great scene that you will notice, and that's where Lucy takes a big swing at Ricky. Now, the fact that he ducks and gets out of the way is pretty nice timing. It's pretty great physical comedy, but that was planned. What wasn't, though, was Ricky's reaction. He pretty much stays serious right after the swing, but he doesn't hold it together, breaks character, and pretty much giggles and laughs. And it's very obvious when you watch it. Again, this is not part of the scene. It's him breaking character, and so it's hilarious to see him do this. Our final blooper comes from episode 147, season 5 of I Love Lucy. Lucy gets a Paris gown. Now, after Lucy fakes a hunger strike to get an original Jacques Marcel dress, Ricky decides to give her a true original made one from potato sacks. So, I mean, I love this episode. It's pretty funny. And when we see the girls dressed in their potato sack weird outfits with the boys, you see them walking across a Parisian cafe. If you look on the top of the screen, you will notice that there is a shadow of the boom microphone, which actually picked up all of the sound of the show. They only used one microphone for that. Kind of an interesting fact there. But yes, the shadow is seen, and you can see that the director noticed that and pretty much went to a second shot. But if you look out for that in syndication, you'll notice it. Thank you so much, guys and gals, for watching. I do appreciate this. Let me know if you want to see more bloopers, and what do you think in the comments below. Which one was your favorite? Did you catch any of these yourself? And if so, which one? We'll see you next time, guys and gals. Don't forget to stay positive, always better yourself, and most importantly, be hopeful.